Hey y'all, CB here, the No BS Welder at NBS Welding. We're rolling in the super service truck. Been doing some field work today, and I want to try to make some good use of my time rolling on the road here and address a question that I get asked a lot with regards to how welding has affected or has not affected my eyes or my eyesight. A lot of young welders have asked me if welding has messed up my eyes. A lot of parents of young welders or people that are parents of young people that are interested in welding have asked me about it, and it's a question that comes up from time to time in general because the welding arc is something that people are concerned about hurting their eyesight. The welding arc is 10 times brighter than the sun. We wear a welding shield with a welding lens in it to protect our eyes because if your eyes are exposed to the welding flash of a welding arc, basically what happens to your eyes is the same thing that happens to your skin. It gets burnt. And when you get a miserable welding flash that really causes you to suffer, what happens is your eyes are blistered. Just like if you were out in the sun and you got a really bad sunburn, you'd get blisters on your skin from that sunburn, and that's exactly what happens to your eyes. The reason that it's extra miserable when you get this burn on your eyes and it's worse than your skin is because your natural reaction to it is to close your eyes. The instant that you close your eyelids scrape over those blisters, which is more miserable. Then you open your eyes, and that's the instant you realize that they're so miserably sensitive to light that you want to close your eyes. Basically, you can understand what I'm saying, that whether your eyes are open or your eyes are shut, if you've got welding flash, you're miserable. And it takes a while for it to go away. Generally, it won't last more than 12 to 24 hours. 24 hours would be a really bad one, a really long one. But it is a concern, and just something that, if you get into welding, you are going to get flash burn. Not just flash burn, but you're going to get burned, period. You're going to burn your hands, you're going to burn your legs, your arms, your body, and you are going to get flash burn on your eyes. The one thing that I will say that I believe I've noticed in myself and all the other people that I've worked with as welders is it's generally something that just happens as you're a newbie. When you're new to welding, you're going to get a welding flash either from somebody welding near you or you do it to yourself, and you're going to get that flash burn. It's going to be really bad, and you'll get over it, heal up from it, and what eventually happens is you just don't get it anymore. And I could be totally wrong, and if there's any of you that know actually optometrists or anybody that can explain this, please chime in and give us a comment for the information. But my theory is that if you take on a career as a welder to the point where you're exposed to this welding arc around other people welding and you welding, and it's something that you deal with on a regular basis, I believe what happens to your eyes is the same thing that happens to somebody's skin that's in the sun a lot. You eventually get a tan, and it's much harder for you to get flash burn. I think I think your eyes get a tan on your eyes just like somebody would get a tan on their skin if they were a person that is out in the sun a lot. And if you know somebody that normally goes out in the sun a lot and they get a really dark tan, you'll find that they don't get burned like somebody that would be really fair skinned and is never in the sun. I think that's what happens to your eyes. Now, whether that's good for you or bad for you, I'm not going to try to say. It hasn't had a negative effect on me. But that's just a, a basic rundown on flash burn. Now, the thought of, does welding with the Welding helmet, does that hurt your eyes? I believe many, many years ago in the past, it did. And I believe the reason that it did is because the very first welders that went, before I started welding, what they wore was just a really, really dark lens, and they just had a really, really dark lens that was dark enough to make it so they could see the weld. What has been available since I started welding, and probably for years before that, I don't know how long, but the lenses that I've always had access to were much better than just a dark lens. They were actually what we would call a filter plate. And when I say that, what I mean is that these lenses actually had the ability to filter out the very damaging UV light that could hurt your vision, could hurt your eyes. Now, there was not, when I started welding, the filter plates that we used were always dark. It wasn't common when I started welding to have the auto darkening welding equipment, welding lenses that we have now. Those have been out for quite a while, but they weren't out when I started welding. So when I got into it, you got in position with your shield up, and then you'd nod your head and the shield would go down, and you couldn't see a dang thing through the lens. It was so dark. But then when you would start welding, you could see, and that's how I got started. And then later, years later, the automatic lenses came out where you can see through them and there's just a slight green tint, and then when you strike an arc, it goes dark for you. When you stop welding, it goes clear again to just that slight green tint. So those are really nice because you can look through those lenses and see. And when it needs to go dark, it goes dark. And when it doesn't need to be dark, it goes lighter for you to see. So those are nice. There's been a concern since those came out. What if that thing doesn't go dark fast enough? Is that going to ruin your eyes? And there again, my belief on that, I don't know if I'm 100% right, but the filter protection that removes the damaging ultraviolet light is in that lens, whether the lens goes dark or not. So even if the auto darkening lens failed and didn't go dark, you're still not going to burn your eyes out, because the filter protection that removes the damaging ultraviolet rays is in that lens, whether it's dark or not. So that's my thought on that. And as far as my personal experience, I will say that as far as my eyes, in a completely unrelated way, completely unrelated to welding, I've been nearsighted since I was a kid. Nearsighted meaning that my distance looking at things up close was fine, but I've always had a blurry vision looking at a distance. So when I was really young, maybe 7 or 8 years old, I was getting headaches really bad. They took me to the eye doctor and found out I needed glasses. Well, they gave me glasses and I broke them, and they got me another pair and I broke those, and I never could keep glasses. I was just too hard on stuff as a kid. I didn't have them any length of time at all, and they were broke. So that didn't work, and probably by the time I was about 10, I started wearing contacts. I started wearing contact lenses, and this was back in the day when the contacts that you had you'd take them out every night, you'd clean them, put them back in, and then once a week you cleaned them in enzymatic cleaner. I did that for years. Eventually the disposable contacts came out where you could put them in your eyes and you could wear them for, I think it was a week in the beginning, and after a week you'd throw them away or you'd clean them and put them back in. That kind of went into a thing where they got into the extended wear disposables. Eventually I had contacts that I could wear for a month. I could put them in my eyes, leave them in there a month, no problem, take them out, throw them away, put in a new pair. Those were great. And one thing that was a benefit to me that was kind of strange, even though my eyesight was really blurry at a distance, I think my vision was like 20/60 or 20/80. When I got fitted with contacts, it made my vision better than 20/20. I actually ended up generally having about 20/10. If you don't know what that means, when they say 20/20 vision, they mean that if you got 20/20 vision, you look at something 20 feet away, it looks like it's 20 feet away. If you got 20/60 vision, you look at something 20 feet away, it looks like it's 60 feet away. That's not good. That's blurry. If you got 20/10 vision, you look at something 20 feet away, to you it only looks like it's 10 feet away. That means your vision is very sharp. And that's what I had when I wore contacts. So I was very happy with that. It was just fortunate for some reason the contact lenses did that to me. So I went through a 30-year or more period of wearing contact lenses with 20/10 vision. During that time, one of the things I'll say with regards to welding about wearing the contacts is they actually probably saved my eyes from some trouble, because I had a lot of occasions where I felt something was weird and I would take my contact out and there was metal stuck to my contact. So that shard of metal that was stuck to the disposable contact lens wasn't a problem, because I threw that in the trash, put in another contact and went on. But makes you wonder, that shard of metal, had I not been wearing contacts, probably would have been stuck in my eye. Now, they didn't save me all the time. And I'll tell you, I did get metal in my eye fairly often. It happens. Most of the time I could pick it out myself with a wet Q-tip. I don't recommend you do that, but it was one of them things where I've done it 1,000 times. And I've even done it to other welders. When another welder got something in his eye, I'd be like, hey, come here, man. And I take a Q-tip and get it wet and pluck it right out of there. Now, like I say, I don't recommend you do that. You should probably go to the eye doctor. I have had occasions where I had metal in my eye and I couldn't get it out. And I had to go to the eye doctor. And a lot of times they'd get it out with a magnet. I have also had occasions where I got metal in my eye and it was so stuck in my eye that they had to drill it out with a tool. Couldn't pluck it out with a magnet. And sometimes if it's been in there a while, they got to drill out the eyeball material that's got rusted. And all that sounds terrible, but the one wonderful thing is your eyes really heal fast. If you ever had that happen, it's like the instant you get, if you got metal in your eye, you're miserable, but the instant you get the metal out, within hours, you're just getting better so fast. And, you know, like you might wake up next morning like nothing ever happened. Your eyes just heal really, really fast. And so, I mean, that's been some of my experience. Now, a little bit of the way that the welding and the getting metal in my eyes has affected me was, I'll tell you what happened. You know, through the years, LASIK, laser surgery, came out, and that's where they do a laser surgery on your eye to correct your vision. and you don't need your contacts or glasses anymore. And I was always considered a good candidate for LASIK. If all you have is nearsighted, say you got 20/60 vision or whatever, you could be like I was, you could be a good candidate to get the laser surgery and end up with 20/20 vision. Well, even though that LASIK surgery came out and I was a good candidate for it, I always said I didn't want to do that because I didn't have a problem with my contacts, and my contacts made my vision so good that if I went and got that surgery and the surgery only gave me 20/20 vision, then I'd probably be pissed. And decades went by where LASIK laser surgery was an option for me, and I went ahead and just wore my contacts and enjoyed my contacts anyway. Now, about in the beginning of 2018, I started having an issue with my eyes feeling really dry. I was having discomfort. I felt like my contacts were uncomfortable all the time, and I talked to my eye doctor about it, and he said, obviously, once again, suggested maybe I should consider LASIK laser surgery. And I told him what I thought. I was worried that I wouldn't get 20/10 vision out of it, and since I'm used to having 20/10 vision, I'd be really upset if I come out of there and all I had was 20/20. So he seemed to think that whatever correction that I got out of my contacts, I would probably get about the same thing out of LASIK. And it made me think I might be able to get LASIK and be lucky enough to have 20/10 vision like I was used to. So I decided to give it a shot. And all of the pre-surgery stuff that my eye doctor needed to do, he got that underway, and we got it all set up for me to go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania and have LASIK surgery. So boss lady Tina took me up there in November of 2018 to Pittsburgh to get the surgery, and they did an evaluation there and told me that they were concerned about giving me LASIK laser surgery because I had so much scar tissue on my eyes that LASIK could be a problem. So let me explain that. The way they do a laser surgery on your eye, the laser comes along and it reshapes your eye. Now, in order for that to happen, what has to happen first is the surface of your eye's got to get out of the way. The laser that corrects your vision can't do what it needs to do with the surface of your eye in front of it. So, the secret with LASIK and the reason that people heal so quickly from LASIK is the LASIK procedure is 2 lasers. And the first laser actually just cuts off a flap off the surface of your eye and folds it back, allowing the other laser to come along and correct your vision. And then the surgeon folds that flap back down, and that seals kind of like a divot at the golf course. If a guy takes his chipper and he chips out a divot of the grass, but he puts the divot back in place and presses it down, that grass just grows back quick and you almost never know it happened. That's how LASIK works, and that's the reason if you get LASIK surgery, you heal fast. Well, this is how Welding ended up affecting me with LASIK, is the LASIK place didn't want to do LASIK on me because they said I had so much metal and damage to the surface of my eye that they were afraid if they tried to do LASIK and they went to fold that flap back, that it might not seal right. And if it doesn't, you're kind of screwed. So what they said was, we can offer you another option that will give you the same result as LASIK. It's just going to take you a little longer to recover. That option that they offered me is a surgery called PRK. Now, PRK, the way that the difference, as far as the laser that reshapes your eye, there's no difference between PRK and LASIK. The difference is the way they get rid of the surface of your eye. Because instead of doing the flap like they do on LASIK, when they do PRK, they take this little stainless steel cup and the surgeon sets it on your eye and he fills it with a special sort of alcohol that softens your eye surface, and then he'll lift that cup out of the way and scrape the surface of your eyeball off until it's gone. And then the laser comes along, reshapes your eye, and you've had your surgery. So the reason that it takes longer to heal is, instead of having that flap grow back real quick, you gotta wait till the surface of your eye just regrows. And it's a little bit scary because you can actually see better the day you've had the surgery than later, because this surface of your eye is growing back from the outside in, and it gets to a point when it's growing good in the middle that you can't see as good, but once it heals, you're good. Well, I did that, and my worst fears came true. I didn't end up with 20/10 vision. My vision was just slightly better than 20/20, and I wasn't happy about it. And my eye doctor I was seeing at the time, I asked him, I said, well, can you give me a prescription that'll get me back to 20/10 even though I've had this surgery? Well, he always said, it ain't worth it, man. You don't need it. You don't need that. It ain't worth it. It would be such a slight prescription, it's not worth it. And he never would do it. I actually quit going to the guy. And to tell you the truth, several years went by, and I didn't go to the eye doctor at all, which is a bad idea, because you should go get checked. There's things that they can check you for that if they catch early, you're better off. And if those things don't get checked and those things develop, it's like less treatable that way. But anyhow, I finally decided, I got to go to the eye doctor and get checked. I got set up with a different eye doctor. Went and got checked. There's no real issues, but I asked that doctor, can you give me a prescription? I told the new eye doctor the whole story, and I said, can you give me a prescription that'll get me back to 20/10? They said, sure. Here, let's see what you got. And they put me on the thing, how they do at the eye doctor. Flip this and flip that. Is this better? Is that better? They do that. And they said, here's the prescription. It's very mild. It's not a huge correction, but it'll put you where you was. So I got a prescription. And actually, the glasses I'm wearing right now are a pair of polarized sunglasses with my prescription. And to have these to be able to put on when I'm driving, I absolutely love it. I can see the fuzz on a frog's ass from 50 yards with these on. And I know that little bit of sharpness that I'm getting out of it is not a big deal. It's just a mild difference, but to me it's a big deal. When I look at the road signs, everything's so crisp and sharp. I wish my other eye doctor would have given me this prescription years ago. So anyway, that's my experience with my eyes. Has the welding light, the welding arc, had any effect on my eyesight? Absolutely not. I don't think so at all. Has the times I've had flash burn and my exposure to the welding arc without protection had a negative effect? I do not think so. Not at all. Has the times I've got metal in my eye been a factor? Absolutely. You know, I probably could have went through a lot less misery in life if I could have kept the metal out of my eye. And safety glasses have improved. I also believe that certain people, me included, have a face that is shaped in a certain way that they're more likely to get stuff in their eye. It's harder for me to find glasses that are safety glasses that seal really well around the bottom. A lot of stuff has hit me in the cheek and bounced into my eye. I don't know that everybody has got a face that's shaped that way and has that problem. I think that's an individual thing. Some people might just be more careful. And the type of safety protection glasses that really seal around your eye would be ideal. But every time I've tried to use something like that, they fog up. And I can't see. Which is obviously, you know, if you can't see to do the work, it's pointless. So, you know, maybe my face is too hot. You know, if you're one of those people that can wear a type of glasses that has a really good seal, you could reduce the chance of getting metal in your eye that way. You might be somebody that can use the type that seals like a goggle and not get them so hot that they fog up. That would be great. You know, it's one of them things, individually, you know, do what you can. Do the best you can to keep the stuff out of your eye. But I would definitely not be concerned about, you know, with using a proper filter plate and a proper welding helmet. I wouldn't be a bit concerned about vision. More than anything, I'd be concerned about getting metal in your eye. And one of the things about getting metal in your eye that goes along with welding and flash burn is there's a lot of cases where you got metal in your eye, or I got metal in my eye, and I thought I had flash burn. And if you got flash burn and that's all you got, there's no point going to the doctor. They can't do a damn thing for you. Won't do you a bit of good. It's a waste of time. But if you think you got flash burn and you actually got metal in your eye, then you say, I've done this before. I said, no, I got flash burn, I ain't got metal in my eye. Couldn't find no metal in my eye, I ain't got no metal in my eye. And then I realized that the flash burn is going on longer than flash burn lasts. And then I realized, oh, I don't have flash burn, I got metal in my eye. Then by the time you go to the doctor, the metal that's been in your eye that you thought was flash burn has been sitting in there rusting for 25 hours or more when you thought you had flash burn. And then they're going to have to not just drill out the metal, but probably all your rusty eyeball material. And it's a lot worse than it would have been if you would have gotten the metal removed from your eye immediately. So that's one of the things you got to distinguish, you know. If you feel like you got flash burn or metal in your eye, are you going to run to the doctor every time? Maybe you should. Maybe I should tell you that you should. But, like I said, if you got flash burn, the doctor can't do a damn thing for you. Now, on the flash burn, there has been people said there's all kinds of home remedies. I've heard of guys dumping mouthwash in their eye. That'll numb your eyeball and give you about 10 seconds of relief, and then the misery is right back. I've heard of guys putting potatoes on their eyes, cucumbers on their eyes, chopping up potatoes and squeezing the potato juice into their eyes. if any of that wives' tale stuff does you any good, great. I'm telling you right now, I've tried all that stuff. It does nothing, absolutely nothing for flash burn. The best thing you can do for flash burn, in my opinion, is go to the darkest place you can find, get as comfortable as you can, keep your eyes open as much as you can, and wait. That's all you can do. Because like I said, your eyes are going to be sensitive to light. You're going to want to close your eyes. When your eye goes over the blister, it's going to be painful. You're going to want to open your eyes. When your eyes are exposed to the light, it's painful. If you go into some place where there's no windows, like a bathroom, put a towel under the crack of the door, block every bit of light, throw your bed comforter and your pillow in the bathtub so it's nice and cushy. Lay down there with your eyes open, and when you gotta blink. It's gonna hurt when you blink, but you eventually have to. And other than that, just wait it out. Best I can tell you, that's my rundown on welding and eyes. And the main thing is learn how to work with what you got. That way you always have everything you need.